See something. Okay, if I can see. What's going on tonight? Anything special? Let's get this show on the road. What time is it supposed to start? What time is the meeting supposed to start?
7. They finished the closed session and then they come in.
Oh, okay, I see. So this was after the closed session. So they might get hung up.
The city is diverse because university provide an attractive third level university. Our one is old and more large university theater. Third level, most of the students are from public schools. Wow, I get it. They shut it to the first when they start the first and second year.
Yeah, that works. And we're just waiting on the two council members. We had a long closed session, so they might be getting put together. Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. We did have a closed session, so I'll ask the attorney to report back out on that, and then we'll start with the invocation and pledge.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City Council met in closed session in regard to labor negotiations as outlined in the agenda, and information was received and direction was given to staff. Other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Okay, thank you very much. If you would join me, we'll start with the invocation and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Father in heaven, thank you for bringing us all here together safely tonight on a wet evening. We ask that you guide us in the decision-making processes in front of us this evening, that you keep us and our community members safe as we get through the next couple of days of rain and weather. Again, thank you for all your blessings and the ability to be part of a community like we have here. In your name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mr. City Manager, are there any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
So we're moving into public comment. This is the part of the meeting where anyone wishing to speak on a non-agendized item can come forward. And I believe we have at least one.
I don't have anyone signed in for public participation, but we do have one for consent calendar.
Okay, nobody running forward. Milford? Nope. Good. All right. We'll move on to our scheduled items, beginning with the consent calendar, and we do have a public speaker on the consent calendar. Gil Garza? Yes, sir.
Excuse me for that. Staff, chief, our sheriff representative, and then council and mayor. I'm here to talk about the recommendation of, and I'm speaking on behalf of Brandy Correa. She allowed me to speak on her behalf tonight. Awarding the contract to Willdan Engineering for after hours and for animal control, after hours, weekends, holidays, and basically overtime, which me and Brandy have pretty much owned for almost 12 years now. It came to our attention through this staff report. We had no communication with staff that San Bernardino had it for the last 4 months. We were never given an opportunity to take over our program, to continue on call and after hours. And looking at this budget here, paying Willdan $75 per hour, 4-hour minimum, that's $300 a night that you'd be paying them 24 hours a day. Well, every night, basically. And if they get called out, that'd be another $300 minimum. That's $600. So you're looking at, for the next 3 to 4 months, a total of $40,000, which Brandy and I, Brandy Correa, Animal Control, and myself, don't even make that in a year with on-call and overtime. So that is kind of an insult to injury to us. We feel that is just unfair. We would like to be given the opportunity to give that after hours on call back to us, because that was our bread and butter, that we kind of owned that for 11 and a half years. And this report here is just saying, the first sentence says, City of Loma Linda is currently not able to provide after hours or for on-call animal control services with current staff. With all due respect, that is absolutely false. Because I'm 100%. I'm willing to get on board and work. And I think my staff knows that, and I've never had a problem being on call. I've done it since day one with minimal training at that time. Now I'm a seasoned veteran, and I'm certified, and I'm ready to go. Have been for the last 11 years. So with that being said, I mean, I'm just saying, I've done everything. City manager knows I've done everything to always save money. I've even taken hand-me-down trucks, city work trucks, so we don't have to, save money in general. So spending that kind of money, $300 a night, $600 if they get called out, $40,000 for the next 3.5 months for fiscal year, just seems absurd. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ron?
Questions appropriate or no?
It's a consent
It's
item, so we can
It's
pull
an
it.
item on the, it's an item on the agenda.
Okay, so let's pull the item. And my question is, have you talked with city staff about your feelings about this?
I have not. I just read the staff report on Friday when I work on Fridays. Nobody else in the city works on Friday except I and the fire department. Oh, Jarb's there in the morning. Yes, he is. So it was brought to my attention basically yesterday when I read the whole agenda. I read the preliminary staff report, but that was on Friday. And then I brought it to attention. Didn't really have the opportunity. I just put my bid in to speak to council, and that's just an absurd amount of money for something that Ms. Correa and I have done for almost 12 years, and we're just getting paid time and a half, which we're happy with. We've always been happy with that. And we, together, I think the best I've ever done in a year is $20,000.
But when we're paying somebody else more than that, that's your issue.
3 times as much, yeah.
Yeah.
And a contractor, which I don't think you're going to get the customer service that Ms. Correa and I have put out for almost 12 years.
So my question, I'm not even sure who to direct it to, is if we pull this item and reconsider it, how does that work?
I'll start on call Monday morning.
Well, that wasn't the part I was. We can pull the item and bring it back?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can choose to continue this item to the next meeting,
Okay.
or just pull it from the agenda, and then the city manager can determine when to put it back on the agenda, if it goes back on the agenda.
Okay. That's the motion I would make.
Motion to pull it?
Can we ask a few more questions?
Absolutely.
So the amount they would pay is if they got called out. So I guess my question is, when staff gets called out, do they get paid a minimum of 4 hours or just for 1 hour?
No, they get minimum.
No, sir. The way it's reading is I'm sorry, if the way it's reading in this, in your agenda, is that Wildan Engineering will be getting $75 an hour, a minimum of 4 hours every night. That's $300.
If they get called out?
No, sir.
No,
That's not what I'm reading.
no, they have to be called out. There's not an animal call out every night, is there? I guess that was Mike's question. How often are we called after hours for animal control? That's the question I would ask.
Well, if I read this correctly, okay.
Said you've been doing this. How often you get to call out at night or weekend on
I
an
never
on-call?
actually did a ratio or an average, but there's been, let's say, a Saturday where I've been called out 6 to 10 times, 7 to 10 times in one day. There's sometimes we go a week without being called out.
Okay.
So we only receive the 1.5 hours a night for holding the
So
on-call phone.
it's mostly on the weekends, or is it after hours?
After hours and weekends and holidays.
Can we get some?
The way the MOU reads is we get Monday through Thursday, we get 1.5 hours. That's basically time and a half for 1 hour and a half for holding the on-call phone. If we get called out, we get time and a half for minimum 2 hours.
I see, okay.
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 And the way I'm reading this, if the city will pay $75 an hour with a 4-hour minimum per day to be available for animal control callouts. The city will pay an additional $75 an hour for the time of each callout. If they get called out, they're getting $600.
All right, do we have a
I
second?
think I'm ready to compete for the job, actually, but anyway.
And going back to elaborate a little bit on how many times we get called, I mean, there's been times where I get called out once a night, twice a night, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. It all depends. It really does depend. That's why we're on call.
So you're on call every day?
Every night after hours, yes, after business
Okay.
hours, Monday through Friday, and then Friday through Sunday, we get 2 hours for holding the phone on the weekends.
Okay.
All right, do we have a second to pull this item, or do we want to move it forward?
Excuse me, one more question. I mean, if you guys pull it and go to, and set it off for next month, let's say, I guess right now we're in dire need of animal control after hours because San Bernardino has canceled their agreement with us.
Yeah,
They could not provide service for us.
that's not something we can fix at this, at our level. That has to be something that's handled by staff, but we
If
can
sta-
make an either motion to pull this
Staff-
item or,
Staff's willing to
Right.
go back to work. I'll go back to
So,
work.
so if you put this item, I will go back and work with the chief and the fire marshal in charge of animal control, and then bring it back to you. In the meantime, we have to come up with a solution, because if not, they'd be calling me to be animal control too, and I can't do that, so.
They just canceled it without notice?
No, that's not accurate.
No.
That's not accurate. So,
Animal control in San Bernardino.
yeah, so there's a ton of history to this, and the fire marshal's not here to speak to all of it, and some of it's probably not appropriate to discuss in this forum. But it used to be handled by staff due to an unavailability quite often of staff to cover. We were forced to begin to use San Bernardino City after hours. San Bernardino City then became our primary after hours due to the same issues. San Bernardino City, due to their own staffing issues, were unable to continue providing and gave us notice that they were going to have to stop providing after hours. At that point, that left us with absolutely nobody. And so for the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've had nobody after hours, and has left us where we basically, when we get called, tell them there's nothing we can do about it. The fire marshal did some research, and Wildan was the best option of what we have right now. And so that's where we moved forward with Wildan.
Those issues are still on the table, though.
Yes, and so Wildan gives us an absolute every hour after hours solution, and there is no other solution. It gives us every hour without question moving forward.
Okay, so I have another question for clarification. So if I understand this correctly, we've been using San Bernardino City and our own staff to do call-outs, because he just said he goes after hours on the weekend. So which is it, our staff or San Bernardino's been doing it?
So at one, when our own staff weren't able to staff all the time, we began to do a hybrid.
Okay,
It then became 100% San Bernardino City
okay,
due to the same issues.
okay. So now the issue is that instead of bringing our own employees, we would consider contracting out.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
If I might mention something, the proposed contract gives either party the right to terminate upon 30 days. An option for the council could be, if the council was so inclined, to approve the agreement tonight, and then after there's discussion and maybe a little more information to provide, if the council chooses to terminate the contract and go in another direction, the council could do that. It's only a 30-day, requires 30 days written notice.
If I could add one more thing, our fire marshal did work with our HR director, who worked with our labor attorney, who was in contact with the the attorney for the employees, or I should say the labor rep for the attorneys. And so all those parties discussed this, which led us to here tonight. So it wasn't done in a vacuum.
Okay. You still have a second to pull it? Okay. So we have a first and a second to pull it. What's everybody's position? Go ahead,
So
sir.
can I request something?
Yeah.
So I like the idea that the city attorney said, let tonight approve the contract for Wildan. At least we have 1 month cover for the, at night and a weekend. And then,
Oh, because you have to give 30 days notice, so
yes,
at least be a
yes,
little
2
bit.
months. And then we will come back, we bring this back in, is March, April, in May. Or even April, in April, yeah, in April. Well, I will bring it back in April and give you a more detail. At that time, I can have the fire marshal here to explain the more detail. And then if you say yes or no, and then we will give the notice to Wildan. So I'll give you 30-day notice. Again, it's kind of hard without the fire marshal in charge of animal controls here to answer all the questions, so.
So to the city attorney, I assume that requires an amendment to the motion.
Or you just withdraw it.
Yes, you could withdraw it, or it would not get support, and then you could make another motion.
Why not just amend the motion that's
You
on the
could-
table?
You could do that,
Okay.
sure.
So
So you
that's-
vote on the amendment first,
Oh,
and then
I
you
follow
vote on it.
Probably easier
On the
just to
motion.
remove it.
Okay, I'm getting pressure from both sides here. I'll just remove it. With the understanding, we're going to vote for the next motion. You've got to approve it
Okay.
then.
Any other motions on?
Second it. Oh, okay.
Okay. Any other motions on this particular item? Okay, so we'll re-include it with the consent calendar. And then do we have a motion for the consent calendar?
I'll move the consent calendar.
Oh, hold on.
Where are we at with this then?
Well, you could, you could do it, you could vote just on this item, and then you could vote on the rest of the consent calendar, or you could say it's just, and that's what I think the mayor is suggesting, put it back with the consent calendar and then vote on the
For
whole
May.
consent calendar. So you can do it in 2 steps, or you can do it in 1 step.
I want to be sure Gil and I are on the same page here. You understand what she's saying?
Yes, sir.
You're comfortable with that?
No, sir. There was never no communication between staff and the control
okay,
officers to give them the opportunity to
accepting
to
that.
have their job back.
Yeah, no, accepting that. We've got to be sure we have coverage 24/7 on this kind of stuff. That's the impression I have. And this would enable that to happen, correct? All right.
And to elaborate on that, what the chief said, I mean, they're speaking about me that I called off numerous times over a 6-month period because I have a special needs son and I have family and I have to take care of them.
Of course.
By all
No.
means, their health is going to be way more important than any career.
I'm totally behind you on that. We just have to be sure as a city that we have coverage for this kind of stuff.
And it was brought to my attention a year and a half ago that San Bernardino City would be in that position for us to give Brandy and I a break for a week so that we wouldn't work 26 weeks out of the year on call, that they'd give us a break or they would take us when we needed them for a 1 night or 2 nights, or whatever.
And my understanding is this motion would give us the opportunity to work those details out so the city knows that we're covered.
Yes, that's why I will come back at the next city council meeting with more detail.
Okay.
But tonight, I request that you approve the contract with Wildan. At least I have somebody to take care of at least this month, and then we'll bring it back the next month.
In April.
Yes.
Okay. And in the meantime, you'll interact with staff so that there's, okay. All right, that's my motion.
So is that are we putting it back on the consent calendar?
Why don't you just vote on this item now and then do the remainder of the consent calendar?
Okay, so we're going to take item I outside of the consent calendar, and your motion is to award it with the caveat that we bring it back. Correct. Okay. Do you have a second for that?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm not sure how we're voting here. Is this a simple voice vote?
I think so, because we're not set up to
Okay.
take this separately.
I can, I'll go ahead if you want to vote.
I don't care. I'm just.
And then we can do the
this'll
consent.
work.
I can do
Okay.
another vote.
Well, this says this was to approve the consent
Yeah,
calendar.
yeah, which is what we're
Which is-
doing.
No,
Well, we're just
it's
doing
not
this
what we're
motion.
doing.
This
See,
is-
that got messed up. Let's do a voice vote
Okay.
on this particular item. Item I, yay or nay?
Aye.
Aye, to bring it back. Yep, pass it and bring it back.
But it's approving the contract
Yes.
with the conditions to bring it back.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Everybody's good on that? Okay, cool. Now we'll take all the rest of the items on consent, which I think is up in front of us.
And I move the consent.
Okay, first on that one.
And I'll second.
And a second.
I'm sorry, was that Councilmember Popescu who second? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you
So
very
I do
much,
have your
Madam
vote.
Clerk. Sorry for the confusion there.
It's okay. So motion is to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 3I as submitted.
Yes.
Can I have your vote? Motion carried? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to new business. Item 5A, appoint members to the Historic Commission and Budget Committee. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the passing of Mr. Dick Wiley, we have less member in the Historical Committee. And so we have one candidate that would like to be on the Historical Committee. Is he here, Lynette? Do you know?
Yes.
Oh,
Mr. Christopher? Oh, for the Historic Committee?
yes.
Jennifer, I'm sorry, Jennifer Jones. I did email her, contact her. I didn't receive a response.
But is
but
there her
Miss-
resume in here? I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she was the candidate for the Historic Commission. And then the candidate for the Budget Committee is Christopher Maravilla, and he is here. But I don't think Jennifer Jones is here.
Where's her?
I don't see her resume for
It's not in here.
the historical. Yeah. Or budget, correct.
It was emailed to you with your packet when I sent the email. It's not in the agenda packet. It was separate when I sent the email to you. I attached their applications because because it's not public information. They're not on any committees yet, so.
Okay, the city attorney has a reason why we don't include the resume on there. Go ahead.
Well, it does have personal information, addresses, and such like that. So those were provided to you separately, but they're not in the public agenda.
I'm not a smart aleck, but I have a hard time voting for somebody I know absolutely nothing about except her name, and she's not here to tell us why she's interested in doing this. So that's just my perspective.
Or I can bring this item back at the next meeting again, so. But at least, how about talk to Mr.,
Marvilla?
Maravilla.
Marvilla?
yeah, for the
Christopher
for the budget
Maravilla.
committee, so easier.
Can you bring her CV separately and hand it to us, or does that violate the Brown Act because it's not public?
I've got it. I mean.
I don't know
pull it up
how
in your
that
email.
works, email
Looking at 'em right
versus hard copy, if it's any difference.
If he has it with him and is fine sharing it with you,
Here,
that-
I'll let you read it right here.
All I'm saying is 14 years on this council, and we've always had applications with appropriate information before.
She's not here, but here's Mr.
Do you want to ask him? He's here. Do you want him? He's here.
We got it. Come on down. How do you pronounce your last name, sir?
Hey everyone, my last name's pronounced Moravia.
Moravia, yeah.
So if you don't want to say Moravia in Spanish, it's for Mr. It's wonderful. So sometimes
Okay,
people call
Mr.
it
Wonderful.
Yeah, but Moravia is yeah, that's how you say it. Yeah, I'm happy to give a little background if you guys. Yeah, so my name is Christopher Moravia. First off, I'm a very optimistic person. That's one of the best features about me, and I love what I do. Currently, I'm a controller at a startup called MIDI Health. They focus on menopause for women, and the company's just growing. It's scaling. It's a startup based out of San Francisco. And I actually live here in Loma Linda now. My wife's originally from Loma Linda. She went to Loma Linda Academy. Veronica Rojas is her former name. And her family and generations of family have lived in Loma Linda. And so I recently moved back here a couple years ago. And for me, if I'm going to be part of a community living somewhere, I like to be involved. And I like to see what's happening with the city. I like to be plugged in. And my background is very specialized in financial statements. So as a controller at the startup, I review all the financial statements, the budgets, forecasting. We go through audits through big four accounting firms like PwC, KPMG, EY. My background actually is at Ernst & Young. So I worked at Ernst & Young, which is a big global accounting audit firm in Los Angeles. And then I worked with that office in New York for about 6 years. And then after that, I moved over to a couple startups. And then just really helping building out their finance and accounting. My last company I worked for, they raised over $250 million for like a health app to help with metabolic disease and type 2 diabetes. And so now I'm at another company which they really focus on women's health, which is like huge need that there's just been a gap for. And so that's my background. I have 2 little boys and a recent daughter that was born. So I have 3 little kiddos and we have a blast. It's always busy, but it's generating a lot of fun. And really looking just to get involved in the city here. You know, my wife's family's here. My sister lives close by. I have several sisters actually, but that's the main reason. You know, I really love numbers and I enjoy understanding how things operate. So that's the why I applied and want to be part of the committee.
Mr. Wonderful, can you get water out of a rock?
Can I get water out of a rock?
Well, that's more rhetorical.
Without striking it.
Without striking. There you go. That's more spiritual. We're a city that's struggling a little bit financially, so we're always looking for another set of eyes to kind of help us keep on the right track. And so far, we've had a pretty good budget committee that's really kept us on the straight and narrow as much as we can, with our limited finances. So,
Mr. Kirk Swagger
moved.
retire and move, so we're missing a member, so it'd be a welcome members to the budget committees.
You got his thing, right?
Yeah, just a couple questions.
Wanda, do you need to see it?
How much do you know about our city budget?
I reviewed the budget, I want to say a couple years ago prior to moving here, and I was looking at some of the department spend. I think it's been a minute since I reviewed it. But actually was reviewing it when I applied. I can't even remember when I applied. And then I finally got calls like, oh, great, I get a chance to join. But I know this seems from just a visual perspective that seems to be you need to be very efficient with the capital that you have. And so I understand that at startups, you have to be very, very capital efficient in order to survive. And your fundraising is very limited. So I can only imagine being at a city, you rely on specific revenues like property tax, sales tax, different types of things like that. So I don't recall off my head, but I did review them at one point in time, and I'd probably review them pretty much in detail. And I'll probably sit down and talk to the budget committee about certain things I had questions on. I think I may have emailed someone like a couple of years ago when I reviewed it. And I don't know if I heard back or maybe I just got busy, but yes, I have seen them. I know where to access them. So.
You mentioned that you understand where the city kind of gets its fund. I'm just curious, what is your view on sales tax and taxes in general? Are we paying too much, too little? Or do you want us to pay more?
I would have to assess the needs of the city because every city operates functionally differently. You know, I used to live in Washington State for a year and a half, and I think they don't have an income tax, but a lot of their revenue source is from a different type of tax. So even though they say they don't have an income tax, there are other tax forms to set they can support the state and the things that they need from their municipalities in different counties. So I'd honestly just have to see, you know, what does the city need to operate effectively, efficiently? And then from that standpoint, see what are the revenue sources and then say, do we really need a sales tax? Maybe, maybe not. I'd have to understand more like the needs of the actual location.
So if the city appears to need it, you'd be in favor of it?
I would say if the city's in need of additional revenue, if they can't offset or reduce efficiency with costs, then we might consider it. But really, it's just understanding how the dollars are being used. Okay. And I don't have a perspective on that, so I just have to learn more about it.
Any other questions?
You handle that very adeptly.
Yeah, thanks.
This is a divided council on this particular kind of an issue, and
I thought that was a very political.
I appreciate what you've said, and I'm going to let Councilman Rigsby make the motion because you're in his district and he's impressed with. That's what he's most impressed
He
with.
lives across the street from me. So.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I'll second his motion.
So I'm going to move to appoint you to the Budget Committee.
Good job. I second the motion.
Awesome.
Okay. Should we do a formal vote on this or? Okay. So it's coming up on our screen.
So motion is to appoint Christopher Maravilla to the Budget Committee. And I will take your vote, please.
We used to be way more informal, but now we have technology that
Yeah.
kind of.
Is there a term for this?
It's a
Full-
4-year term
Full 4 years starting,
that would start effective if he goes with the SPIGI. So effective
Send me an email
today.
and
okay.
yeah, okay. Yeah, Lynette mentioned that. So.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay. Congratulations. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And it sounds like we're going to continue the other one until maybe we can meet with her in person. I think that's the general feeling. Okay, moving on to item 5B. Councilmember Wong.
So this was the presentation they gave last month at the city council meeting, was from the tobacco group about basically coming up with a comprehensive tobacco retailer licensing ordinance. And we heard their presentation, and they were very vocal about the fact that we've got an F rating for selling to underage minors. I think it was like 5 out of 9. So they are encouraging us, especially as a blue zone, and our motto is health and prosperity, to step up and do an ordinance. And I think the mayor even told them that we probably need to come back, vote on it, and have JARB take a look and see and do comparison of what, if there's an impact to us, whether it's positive, negative, that we need to fully investigate. So that's what I brought it back to do, was to be able to vote that we have JARB look into, and they left these binders as well, that we have JARB look into what it would mean for Loma Linda if we develop an ordinance, probably similar to Adelanto, for tobacco retailers. So it would just be doing research to look into it.
So that's a motion to have staff put together a package and then bring it back? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll move the motion.
Okay. You have a second.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
we have 3 speakers.
Oh, we have it. Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. Israel Fuentes.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Israel Fuentes. I am the chair of the Coalition for Tobacco-Free San Bernardino County, a board member and clerk with the Colton Joint Unified School District, and the community liaison for Young Visionaries. I am here again to express my support for an ordinance that reduces youth access to tobacco products in Loma Linda. I think a tobacco retail license is a step in the right direction in protecting our local youth from dangers of tobacco. After discussing with other community members, I would like to encourage the council to consider a more long-term solution by phasing out the sale of tobacco products completely in the city of Loma Linda. In 2022, there was a survey conducted with Loma Linda city residents to ask about their experience and attitudes on tobacco-related issues. When respondents were asked if they would support or oppose the elimination of tobacco sales in their community, 7.3% supported or strongly supported such a move. We hope that you take our comments and community opinions about tobacco issues into consideration as you make your decisions today. The Coalition for Tobacco-Free San Bernardino County is here as a tobacco prevention resource for you and for the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Ms. Laura Cortez.
Good evening, Mayor Duper and the City Council. My name is Laura Cortez. I'm a senior at Redlands High School, currently a Loma Linda City resident. As a young person, I am the tobacco industry's main target. California has become a champion in fighting the tobacco industry, but we have seen how the tobacco industry takes over advantage of the gaps in existing policies to continue to sell their products. As the tobacco industry continues to evolve, we must take action to protect our local communities. Once again, I am here today to urge the City Council to take a stand in protecting me and my peers against the dangers of tobacco products by adopting a local ordinance that restricts the sales of commercial tobacco products in our city. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura.
Ms. Brianna Ramirez.
Good evening, Mayor Duper and City Council. My name is Brianna Ramirez, and I'm a fourth-year student at Loma Linda University School of Pharmacy. I am also an intern pharmacist currently serving the population here in Loma Linda. I'm here today to share my thoughts on addressing youth access to tobacco in the city. Selling tobacco products undermines strong public health messages that tobacco products are both addictive and deadly. While the tobacco retail ordinance is a step in the right direction, I would like the council to consider the possibility of phasing out the sale of tobacco altogether in our community. Many cities across California already have tobacco retail licensing policies, and some have already eliminated the sale of commercial tobacco as a way to protect our youth from the predatory practices of the tobacco industry. The history of tobacco control suggests that each locality taking action to address the issues associated with tobacco sales in their community may enable others to do the same. It would be great to see Loma Linda continue to be a leader in promoting health and wellness in the Inland Empire and to inspire other cities to follow suit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We do have a first and a second on a motion to have staff bring something forward to us. And Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready, we can take a vote on that.
I'm just going to make a quick comment.
Yes, sir.
Before we vote. I wish that when this originally came up last week, we had this. This is a magnificent binder that includes summary detail as well as models of what can work. I'm not quite sure why we're following Adelanto's lead, but that's not for me to judge. But it was very well put together, and I spent a considerable amount of time with it over the last couple of days. So thank you for that. You did your homework, you and the organization you represent, and that's very helpful. So I hope this all works out well. I have numerous questions, but I don't think here and now is the time and place. I'll spend some time with the city manager and probably city attorney that are working out details regarding fees and why counties have approved this and yet they don't charge anything, and the cities are, I've got numerous questions. But I think it can work and it's the right thing to do. So we just need to figure out the details and what the impact would be on our city.
And let us know if there's anything we can do for you. Those questions that you have, I should actually go up there. Yeah. If there's anything, so they can hear us online. If there's anything we can do to help you, please let us know. If you have any questions, want to email them to me, feel free to do so. I know the city clerk has my email and stuff, and we'll be glad to help you in any way we can.
Well, she's our boss and he's our boss.
All
so those will be the two primary contact people.
You got it.
I'll certainly be in touch with them.
Awesome. Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to 5C, also Councilmember.
Mr. Mayor, may we take a motion, can I take your vote on the motion to recommend to staff?
Oh, we didn't vote on it?
No. To recommend staff that, to take this back to staff to research the development of a local ordinance on tobacco restrictions. Please vote. Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, now on to 5C. Dr. Wow.
Again? Okay. So this time is talking about the strategies our city is currently wrestling with and what we're doing. And but before we get into that, one of the things is I wanted to remind us where we came from, right? And so there's a section from, not probably everybody, but I'm sure people up here remember this book all too well because everybody's kind of affiliated with the university. But there is a section in here, this is called Railway to the Moon, and it was when Loma Linda was first built. It was thought this will never become. You're basically building a railway to the moon. How would it possibly be? And Lynn Barron, she was the president back in 2005, I want to say. And so they asked her about Loma Linda, and I want to read to you, if I can find what she said. So she says, I would like you to travel back with me in time to the year 1905. Southern California was alive with activity. People from the East Coast had traveled west looking for health and well-being and a new fortune. The Seventh-day Adventist Church in Southern California was a very small number of people. In 1904, they had purchased Paradise Valley Hospital near San Diego, and the beginning of 1905, they had purchased Glendale, two facilities that still serve today. But in the climate of their taking responsibility for those two institutions, a little lady in her 70s in Northern California wrote to people down in the area of the country and said, go find another place, a place that would be both for education and for healthcare delivery, a place, she said, that would be purchased for much less than its price. So they went looking. She told them, look between Riverside and Redlands. This valley in 1905 was largely orange groves sprinkled with just a few homesteads, and there atop Mound Hill was an empty sanitarium. It was elegantly furnished, but its silence spoke to the reality that it was yet another failed business venture. They went looking and they found. By the end of 1905, the church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, would own this third institution in Southern California, one of which we are stewards of today, right? And they go on to say in this book, it says, and the combination of divine providence linked with human vision and effort helped Loma Linda find a way to survive, especially these earliest years, right? And so what are those earliest? So in 1906, they established the university. Then the Great Depression hit, and they had to figure out how they're going to survive that. Then 1940s, the war, right? And by 1949, they were already building the dental school by Webster Prince, right? And then in 1970, Loma Linda finally became incorporated. It was a city. And since that time, the city of Loma Linda and also the universities have had this intricate relationship. Though they are one entity in and of themselves, we are jointly, we jointly prosper together. And one such example is here in our city of the two of us together as our relationship unfolds. And it was basically in 1984, we hit the headlines again. Does anybody remember what happened in 1984 with the surgeon?
Baboon.
Yeah, baby Faye received the first baboon heart transplant. And then eventually we went on to build a park that's named in honor of Dr. Leonard Bailey here in Loma Linda, right? And most children won't know the park name. They call it the Blue Park because all the equipment is blue. And then another vegetarian, she actually trained in the halls of Nickel Hall, climbing stairs to summit mountains. And she holds the record for the eldest woman hiking the summit, Mount Fuji, and another one, I think here in Mount Whitney, Congressman in Redlands named a peak after her on Mount Whitney. And we ended up naming a park in her honor. So it's Hulda Crooks, right? So, and then again in 2008, right, we have National Geographic coming here, and they label us a blue zone. We're known for our longevity, which is primarily based on the research from the Adventist Health Study. So my colleagues at the university and myself included, we go around and study people, and especially people who are over 100, and indeed there is some weight behind that. So now we have a lot of people coming to our city, right? They want to see. In fact, our own city motto is very similar to Loma Linda's motto. So our own city motto is a model of health and prosperity. Not prosperity, not health, but health and prosperity. Loma Linda University's motto is to make man whole, right? And by that, it's health embedded in the message. So one of the things I've noticed as we're doing the Economic Generating Committee and we're meeting and developing things is that are we beginning to move as we grow? And this actually came up from the Revenue Generating Committee. They said, we worry about the development and the gentrification, where you lose your identity of what your heritage is, of what your culture is, where you came from. So this is why I brought it forth and wanted to say, what is it that we're going to do? And I think it's great with the tobacco that we took a stand and going to have Jarb look at it. But what is it that we want to do? What are the ordinances we need? And I'm looking over here at you guys because I don't know. What are the ordinances we need to ensure the types of businesses that we want, or that we have an input on what's coming? Because already I see, we've got those 3 tobacco shops, and then we've got some others coming in that it doesn't scream to me health. It doesn't even scream to me neutrality. I'm wondering, what can we do to ensure or have a hand on the types of businesses that we're attracting? Because when I'm with the economic revenue, they're ready to go and have, calling in businesses and expanding. And so I want to know what is it? And our main issue is that how do we infuse what our motto is into the decisions that we're making?
So in your meeting so far, what kind of businesses, how do I say this? Who's breaking down our door right now to come in?
So that I'm not aware of who is. We only can see what has come, and so some of them they're wondering, like the one right here on Mountain View. They're telling me it looks like a swap meet, and even so they're wondering, and then
so we have to be careful because to a certain degree we have to be careful what we tell the
Correct.
owners of the property
Correct.
who can or can't be their tenants to a degree. But I'm curious as to what we're attracting, and if we need to do more work with that image versus are we missing a step? Because actually, I know we've got some economic development going on with our new assistant city manager. There are some things that they're working on. I think those are good things that we all will be happy with. Those are just my questions, is that
Yeah, it's no easy. My
You know what I mean?
question is, are we missing something that we shouldn't be missing? As we're developing and we look back and think, why didn't we make an ordinance on that? Why didn't we do something to help guide that? Because we only get this opportunity
Well,
once.
I would just remind everybody that we did that once with McDonald's, and then we ended up repealing it. So we have to be a little bit careful. We are not in a great financial position right now. So although we all want the perfect world, we also have to make sure that we're not losing out on something that benefits us in other ways. Because if we can't afford to pay for, public safety or any of those things, then we're kind of defeating the purpose of having a town or a city. So I'm just cautious with that type of stuff, because it's easy to get sucked up into I don't like that, so I'm going to get rid of it. And then we see a national debate about that right now, right? And depending on what side of the aisle you're on, everybody thinks we're trying to get rid of something that, whatever. I just want us to be careful and cautious with too much of that. Even tobacco, okay? To what point, and I'm 100% on board with juveniles, right? They should not have access to that. But at what point are we starting to infringe on other people's rights by saying you can or can't have something or another? I just want to be super, super careful with that. So that's just my position.
That I completely understand. My only pushback would be, it's your motto. Do we have?
So
it's together. And my worry is that as we go to pursue finances, because we're strapped, that we don't loosen up what we're willing to take because we need the money.
So to me, the paramount, most important thing for me and my family is that they're protected and they're safe. And then after that, it's that we have water and sewer and trash that are coming to their home. And then we have nice parks and we have nice things to do here in town. So those are the absolute drivers and priorities for me. And if we get to a place where we can't afford those, then I have concern with this as a community. I love our history. I was born here. I didn't create the motto. Maybe Milford did. I was gonna throw out another zinger, because when you talked about the dental school opening, I was gonna ask Ron if he was there for that, but I probably shouldn't have done that.
1949.
It's just, we have to be careful, because it's real easy. I'll tell you, my fear of government, and this probably is what makes me consider myself to be more libertarian, is that we impose too much on people as government. Now, that's a little different view than my cohorts here, because sometimes I feel like we may have to get to a place where we have to do some type of sales tax, because we can't pay for all those other services I talked about earlier. So I'm not 100% locked into one view. I just want to be careful that we don't create an atmosphere that's defeatist. And I may be completely missing the mark. Go ahead, sir.
What is the basis of this motto, health and prosperity? Where'd that come from?
I don't know. It's on our website. It's on the website. Were you here when it came?
I've never even heard it before.
It's on the website.
Yeah, but the website has a bunch of old stuff that needs to be purged, but I don't know where that came
Maybe
from.
Milford would know.
But I'd like to make a
Because
comment.
as far as I know, our motto is right up there, serving man.
It's on the website, health and prosperity.
But I don't think it's an official thing at all.
This came out of our
Yeah.
work with that social media thing, right?
It's actually in our general plan.
Does it say our motto shall be health and prosperity, or is it
It's called
just,
the city of health.
or it's just a theme of our general plan? Because there's a difference. Because our motto is serving man, and we've got a blooming caduceus in the middle of it, so we're kind of into health.
That is even more health than the city of health and prosperity.
Yeah.
But
I've said for years that could be the university's symbol.
That is. So my discussion is, can we have input, or how do we have input that we can help to shape?
Sorry, go ahead, Ron. Your turn.
And I appreciate that you've taken the initiative to put together this economic development strategies committee. I think it's important, especially now when budget's tight. I mean, that's come up multiple times already this evening. And I have a fairly simplistic mind. Either we need to increase revenue or decrease costs, one or the other, to figure out how to ensure we have a secure and balanced budget that meets some of the things that the mayor was describing. I don't have any magic formula. I do believe I'm kind of a student of history, amateur student of history, and I do appreciate it, and I think it's very important to us. And I think we need to value that, embrace it, and sustain it. But where this council is at some point, the rubber's got to meet the road. You know, we can ask for all kinds of things or hope for all kinds of things, but we've got to figure out where the money's coming from. And that's where this group of 5 of us have struggled, is coming to some kind of a consensus on, are we going to reduce services or increase a sales tax? And there are some in-between steps nobody's helped me understand yet, but I believe in and I want to sustain the heritage that we have that's very focused on health and well-being. But the mayor is also correct. We've got to be sure we've got a safe neighborhood. We have clean parks. We have a city where people can trust that the water is clean, et cetera, et cetera. So I appreciate you raising the issue. And I've told you that, I admire people that have been willing to serve on this committee. I want to be supportive of that in whatever way I can be. But it's easy to say, we've got a wonderful community here in Little Loma Linda. Everybody wants to move in here and get a piece of the action. But we got to put pencil to paper on that for it to really happen. So my point is, I believe in the committee you formed. I will do whatever I can to be supportive of it, as long as a parallel conversation is, how are we going to sustain the core values of the community that the mayor already described? So there's got to be a balance here. And hey, if I had the answer, I'd be the first to share it. But I'm not trying to be evasive.
It's a good perspective, because it comes down to the finances of the city. And so tomorrow the economic committee is meeting, and I think we're gonna.
You put your money where your values are. That's the bottom line in any organization.
Hey, and to echo what Ron said, what you're doing is phenomenal, and I think we all appreciate it. And I do believe this is a city and community based on health. Or the health industry, one of the two, or maybe both. We obviously have some unique opportunities here. I see value in trying to capitalize on some of that. I just want us to be cautious and careful in our approach, that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, if that makes sense. We could get too hyper focused on one thing as that being our sole goal and mission, and that leaves us with nothing.
That's right. It's true.
So, but
we need the money.
I'm all in favor.
I want to end on a positive
note. We need the money. I know.
But I'm very impressed that you've taken the initiative to bring community people together to look at these parallel issues and figure it out. I really am.
Thank you.
I agree.
It's easy to talk. We're a bunch of politicians. It's easy for us to talk, but we got to get some action working here.
That's right, that's right.
Anybody else? Owie? Dusty? No?
I'm wondering what's the ask? I know it's said for input and recommendations, but what is it you're wanting to do with this?
Just discussion, just what we
But-
did.
But are you
It gives
wanting
me an
to,
idea.
are you wanting it to feed into our general plan? Like, you know, if a development is not along the lines of health and prosperity, we're not going to approve it, or like
No,
what?
it's to just have a discussion to see what our thoughts are, how we guide it, how we do it. You know, is purely just to have a discussion. It's not to feed into any plan or anything like that. And tomorrow morning I go to the Economic Development Committee. And so it gives me a little more ideas and clarity with them that, you know, there is a real crunch, there is a real push to figure out what businesses, and there may be more leeway on health than what we're, you know, hoping for. So no, this discussion actually is helpful.
And at
Yeah.
some point, oh, I'm sorry. go
Yeah,
ahead.
and I agree with what Phil said, that we can put some dictates on the buildings, but we can't put any dictates on the people who rent those buildings. So, and like he said, who's knocking down, you know, our door trying to get in? Probably nobody, but we can't, you know, beggars can't be choosers, is an old saying, but, you know, we're not even if we cared, we couldn't stop people, because the building owner can rent to whoever they want, as long as it's not an illegal establishment. So I don't know I would just have them contemplate that symbol up there. You know, we're not just staring at our own belly button like a lot of cities. You know, if you look at their symbols, most cities are just something internal. Ours is an external symbol. You know, we're a beacon to the world. We're not just Loma Linda. We're someone who's helping and serving man worldwide. So it's a big deal. And part of that's because, you know, the incorporation was engineered by university people. So that's a reflection of that. But that, I think, is what they should look at. Because, you know, we're here to serve the world, and the city is just here to help the citizens of Loma Linda accomplish that.
I know you talked about some like destination ideas and stuff like that. I think those are great ideas. You know, you talked about whether or not we looked at legalizing Airbnbs and stuff like that, which, again, to throw it out there, for the record, are not allowed in the city, yet we know they are occurring in the city. And people are advertising them as destination wellness blue zone locations, which in itself kind of brings up another consideration, is that as we talk about, you know, setting regulations and all that kind of stuff, how do we even enforce some of the stuff we're not currently enforcing? But it would be interesting, I think, to get some type of handle on the Airbnb market and either charge people that tax for that, because they're doing it. They're doing exactly what you talked about. So I think that's kind of like maybe even a low-hanging fruit
That might even, yeah.
that we should probably bring up and discuss at some point, because we know it's occurring, we know it's outlawed, and yet we're not pushing our code enforcement people to go down there and shut those people's doors. So maybe we need to figure that out.
Yeah, our assistant city manager is working on that right now.
See?
Airbnb. So we're looking at, is it June, Andy?
Yes, we're expecting to have a first reading in June with implementation in July. And so we'll be providing an informational update. Staff is working diligently behind the scenes. We've been doing a lot of research, and the numbers that have been coming back and some of the technology that is out there for partnership to do enforcement is very promising. And I've had experience implementing this in another city, and so we're excited about coming back to you in the soon future.
That's awesome. Hey, and that was...
Clarify that for me.
That came from you.
Of Airbnbs, or figuring out a way to tax them? Which is it?
Both. So currently in the city, there is a we did an analysis, and it's as little as 35 Airbnbs exist, or types of Airbnbs, as high as 75. And the research that we have back, if we were to provide an ordinance and enforcement, we would be collecting TOT on that, which is 10%, which is what we're collecting on the hotels. And so that would be positive revenue, and we'd provide more details at a later time.
The only other comment I would have is that you've got a committee of local residents and business people that are meeting with you on the committee. And I'm not sure what the legal eagles are going to say, but I'm suggesting at some point you bring some of the council people in. I mean, we're electeds. The people can vote me out whenever they want to. And you know, if we think we've got answers, we need to come in and be interacting with some of the business people and citizens that you're interacting with. Bring us in, whether it's all of us as a group, which I think is probably going to violate all kinds of laws, but bring us in one or two at a time then, and so that it can be more interactive than in this kind of a formal setting.
Okay. Does that about wrap that up, or you good? Okay. All right, that doesn't require anything more. We can move on to reports of council members. Reports of officers.
No, sir.
Okay. Madam Clerk, which would you prefer to move on to next?
Housing Authority, please.
Okay, so we're going to open the Housing Authority. Are there any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
Anyone in the public wishing to speak on a non-agendized Housing Authority item, please run forward. Seeing nobody running, we're going to go ahead and move on to the only item, which is the consent calendar.
Move it.
Okay, we have a first and a second.
Motion is to approve the consent calendar as submitted. Please vote. Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, any old business, new business, reports of members or officers? Seeing none, we'll move on to the successor agency. Any items to be added or deleted there?
No, sir.
All right. Again, anyone from the public wishing to speak on a non-agendized successor agency item, please come forward. Seeing nobody there, we'll move on to the only item, which is the consent
Move it.
calendar. And we have a first and a second.
Motion is to approve the consent calendar on the successor agency as submitted. Please vote. Motion carried.
Okay, that any reports of officers, members? Seeing none, we're adjourned. We're adjourned from all three meetings, and we'll see you guys next month.